You probably spent a minute this morning deciding what to wear, but did you ever consider that your choice of socks could land you in jail? For centuries, governments have dedicated serious brainpower to a single, pressing issue: policing your wardrobe. From criminalizing mismatched socks to outlawing specific colors on certain days, the law has some strong opinions on your outfit. We've found 50 of the most baffling, absurd, and hilarious fashion laws in history. Your closet is about to look a lot more suspicious. 1. In the city of Blythe, California, it is illegal to wear cowboy boots unless you own at least 2 cows. This isn't a joke. It's a genuine municipal code. You can't just appreciate the aesthetic. You must be an active participant in the bovine economy. Imagine the scene. A fashion-forward tourist gets stopped by the police. "Sir, I'm going to need to see your boot license and proof of cattle." It elevates the concept of gatekeeping to a whole new agricultural level. In Blythe, your footwear isn't a style choice, it's a statement of livestock ownership. 2. In Carmel by the Sea, California, a woman technically needs a permit to wear high heels measuring more than 2 inches in height with a base of less than 1 square inch. Now, this sounds like the work of a puritanical city council, but the origin is pure bureaucratic genius. The city passed the law in the 1920s to protect itself from lawsuits from women who might trip and fall on the town's notoriously uneven sidewalks, which are warped by tree roots. The best part? You can get your lifetime high heel permit for free at City Hall. It's a masterpiece of legal maneuvering. 3. Heading over to Flint, Michigan, a 2008 city ordinance made it illegal to wear your pants in a way that exposed your underwear or buttocks, famously targeting the saggy pants trend. Violators could face jail time. While the law was presented as a matter of public decency, it's hard not to picture a city council meeting where, instead of discussing infrastructure or the economy, the most pressing issue on the docket was the structural integrity of teenage denim. It's a bold legislative move to declare war on a lack of belts. 4. In France, a naval regulation from 1858 specified that the official sailor's shirt must have exactly 21 white stripes and 20 or 21 navy blue ones. But this wasn't about fashion, it was survival gear. The bold pattern made it easier to spot a sailor who had fallen overboard. So next time you see someone in a striped shirt, remember, it's not Parisian chic. It's 19th century emergency wear, approved by the ghost of Napoleon. 5. In Thailand, it is strictly illegal to leave your home without wearing underwear. This is one of those laws that raises far more questions than it answers. The most obvious one being, how on earth would anyone enforce this? It's a law that is simultaneously deeply personal and logistically impossible to police. You have to wonder what specific, traumatic incident prompted a group of lawmakers to sit down together in a room and draft official legislation against the practice of going commando. The potential backstory is almost more fascinating than the law itself. 6. In ancient Rome, purple wasn't just a color, it was a felony. Only the emperor could wear an all-purple toga, thanks to sumptuary laws. The dye came from thousands of crushed sea snails, making it more valuable than gold. Wearing it without permission could literally get you executed. Forget streetwear clout. This was the original deadly drip. 7. In Denver, Colorado, an old ordinance prohibited women from wearing grotesque hats in public. The definition of grotesque was left entirely up to law enforcement. That means a cop could technically fine you for a feather, a ribbon, or an especially aggressive fascinator. Fashion wasn't just personal expression. It was a misdemeanor with a dress code. 8. In early 20th century Chicago, women were banned from wearing patent leather shoes in public because officials feared the shiny surface might reflect their undergarments. It's not just fashion policing, it's mirror physics legislation. Somewhere, a man clearly stared at the floor way too long, had an existential crisis over a toe-level reflection, and lobbied for a citywide crackdown. It's the only time in history that a polished shoe was considered a public threat to decency. 9. In Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, it's illegal for men to wear traditional women's clothing in public, especially outfits with bare shoulders. But the law is oddly specific. Dresses are fine, as long as they have sleeves. The result? A potential wave of men confidently strutting around in floral gowns with elbow-length lace cuffs. Technically legal, emotionally confusing. 10. In Saudi Arabia, the government once banned the sale of certain Barbie-style dolls, calling them a threat to Islamic values and accusing them of promoting Western ideals of beauty and immodesty. Shops were raided, dolls confiscated, and parents warned. It wasn't just about plastic limbs. It was a culture war in a pink box. Somewhere, a little girl's tea party was interrupted by a full-blown morality crackdown. Turns out, even molded vinyl can be seen as an act of ideological rebellion. 11. In the United Kingdom, a 700-year-old law strictly forbids members of Parliament from wearing a suit of armor inside the Houses of Parliament. Dating back to 1313, this was designed to stop nobles from, well, settling debates with broadswords. But imagine the sheer power move. Forget a fiery speech, just show up for a vote on tax policy in full-plate mail, slowly tapping your steel gauntlet on the desk. This law effectively prevents parliamentary debates from escalating into armored jousting tournaments down the center aisle. And yes, it's still on the books today. 12. During the 1970s, South Korea was under the authoritarian rule of Park Chung-hee, who launched a crusade against decadent Western influences. This led to a bizarre law of decency, where police were armed with rulers and roamed the streets measuring women's miniskirts. If a skirt was more than 20 centimeters above the knee, the woman could be fined or even arrested. It was a literal fashion police state, where the government dedicated state resources to enforcing hemline regulations. Forget fighting crime, the real threat was an extra inch of exposed thigh. 13. An old ordinance in Alabama makes it illegal to wear a fake mustache in a church if it causes laughter. This law has the fingerprints of a single, legendary prankster all over it. You can just picture this mustache-wielding menace, showing up every Sunday with a different disguise. A handlebar one week, a Fu Manchu the next, sending the congregation into hysterics and derailing the sermon until the town council had no choice but to draft legislation specifically targeting this one man's reign of comedic terror. 14. For over 200 years, it was technically illegal for women in Paris to wear trousers. Enacted in 1800 to keep women out of male-dominated jobs, the law required them to get a police permit to dress like a man. While it was ignored for decades, it remained on the books until it was officially revoked in 2013. To put that in perspective, this Napoleonic-era rule was still active the same year the world was collectively singing "Let It Go" from the movie Frozen. For 2 centuries, Parisian women were technically denim rebels. 15. In Russia, a 2014 law banned gay propaganda, which extended to fashion in absurd ways. One retailer was fined for selling t-shirts with rainbows, another for mannequins wearing pink bow ties. The law never explicitly banned colors, but anything vaguely flamboyant was fair game. It created a bizarre reality where dressing too cheerfully could land you on the wrong side of the state. In Putin's Russia, even your wardrobe was expected to look properly miserable. 16. Let's jump back to Elizabethan England, where sumptuary laws dictated exactly what you could wear based on your social class. Commoners were forbidden from wearing luxurious materials like silk, velvet, or certain furs. These were reserved for the nobility to make class divisions instantly visible. It makes you appreciate the modern freedom to wear a velour tracksuit to the grocery store without fear of being arrested by the fashion aristocracy. Your juicy couture sweatsuit would have been a ticket to the stocks. 17. The classic black and white striped prison uniform wasn't a random design choice. It was a calculated strategy of humiliation and control. First implemented in the 1820s, the chaotic stripes were meant to strip an inmate of their individuality. More importantly, the pattern made escapees instantly recognizable against any background, turning every citizen into a potential spotter. It was a piece of clothing designed to be a psychological cage. 18. In Fargo, North Dakota, it is illegal to dance with a hat on. Not just in a church, but anywhere. The law also extends to falling asleep with your hat on. You have to wonder what kind of hat-related trauma the city of Fargo collectively endured to pass such a specific rule. It's a city that has clearly decided where to draw its line in the sand. In Fargo, being footloose is perfectly fine, but being fedora-loose is a felony. 19. In Dublin, Georgia, a city ordinance makes it illegal to appear in public in a mask, hood, or other device whereby a portion of the face is hidden. On the surface, it sounds like another weird local law, perhaps a war on Halloween. But its origins are dead serious. The law was passed in the 19th century as a direct tool to combat the Ku Klux Klan, making it illegal for them to march while concealing their identities. It's a fascinating and rare case of fashion policing that actually targeted real villains instead of, say, frightening bonnets or exposed collarbones. 20. The seaside resort town of Wildwood, New Jersey, took a stand against fashion in 2013. They passed an ordinance officially banning sagging pants on their famous boardwalk. The dress code forbids trousers that sag more than 3 inches below the hips, exposing either skin or underwear. The official town slogan is, "Watch the tramcar, please." But unofficially, it's become, "And for the love of God, pull up your pants." It's a bold attempt to legislate the vibe of a vacation spot, one belt at a time. 21. Packing for a Caribbean vacation? You might want to leave your trendy camouflage print shorts at home. In several nations, including Barbados, Jamaica, and St. Lucia, it is illegal for any civilian to wear camouflage clothing. This isn't an aesthetic choice. It's a matter of national security. The laws are in place to prevent civilians from being mistaken for soldiers and to stop criminals from impersonating military personnel. So while you think you're making a bold fashion statement, the local government sees it as a potential threat. Your cargo pants could accidentally be considered an act of subversion. 22. In the 1940s, the Zoot Suit was more than just a fashion trend for young Mexican-American men in Los Angeles. It was a symbol of cultural pride and defiance. These outfits, with their high-waisted, wide-legged trousers and long coats with padded shoulders, used an extravagant amount of fabric, which was seen as unpatriotic during wartime rationing. This tension exploded in the 1943 Zoot Suit riots, where American servicemen roamed the city, brutally attacking any young man they found wearing one, often stripping them of their clothes in the street. It's a chilling reminder that sometimes the most dangerous thing you can wear is something that gives you a voice. 23. In Réunion, a French island territory, there was once a proposed rule banning excessively loud flip-flops in government buildings. The reason? Disruption of administrative focus. Imagine a tax office where sandal slap echoes like a metronome of chaos, and your choice of footwear is classified as a workplace hazard. Somewhere, a civil servant cracked under the psychological toll of flip-flop percussion and demanded legal action. That's not fashion. It's acoustic terrorism. 24. Following the Jacobite Rebellion. In 1745, the British government enacted the Dress Act of 1746. This law didn't just ban weapons in the Scottish Highlands, it banned the very clothes of its people. The act made it illegal for any man or boy to wear tartan, a kilt, or any other element of traditional Highland dress. The punishment was severe: 6 months in prison for a first offense and 7 years of transportation to a penal colony for a second. It was a calculated act of cultural warfare, a government so afraid of a rebellion that it declared war on a piece of fabric. 25. In the South Korean military, there are official regulations about the width of soldiers' sideburns. They must be no longer than 3 centimeters and neatly trimmed at a 90-degree angle. This isn't about hygiene, it's about discipline. Hair becomes a metaphor for order, and a rogue tuft can apparently destabilize an entire unit. It's the only army where a pair of scissors is as feared as a firearm. Forget combat readiness. Focus on cheekbone geometry. 26. In Malaysia, your choice of t-shirt color could make you an enemy of the state. When a massive pro-democracy movement adopted the color yellow, the government responded by officially banning yellow clothing linked to the group. Suddenly, a primary color became a weaponized symbol. That bright, cheerful shirt in your closet? Potential sedition. Choosing what to wear in the morning became a high-stakes political gamble. That innocent, smiley-face t-shirt you own could be interpreted as a silent, fabric-based act of rebellion. 27. For decades, blue jeans have been seen as a potent symbol of Western culture and capitalist freedom, which is precisely why North Korea has waged a long-standing war against them. The state has periodically banned blue jeans, along with other Western styles like skinny jeans, as a form of anti-socialist and decadent behavior. It's not about the denim, it's about the ideology woven into the fabric. The regime is so focused on cultural purity that it has an official, hostile stance on America's favorite pants. 28. Let's go back to the early 20th century, a time of intense anxiety about public swimwear. A 1917 ordinance in the United States, for example, required that men's bathing suits must include a skirt effect, a little flap of fabric at the front to obscure the male form. Some beaches even had police officers with measuring tapes to ensure that bathing suits weren't too revealing. The image of a tough, mustachioed man from the 1910s being forced to wear a frilly little swim skirt to the beach is a glorious piece of fashion history. 29. In Iran, the government is so invested in personal grooming that it periodically publishes its own official haircut lookbook. The state has declared war on decadent Western styles like ponytails, mullets, and anything involving too much hair gel, distributing posters to barbershops illustrating the government-approved options. It's the ultimate form of helicopter parenting, where the state itself threatens to ground you for your hairstyle. Forget freedom of speech. This is a battle over the fundamental human right to have a bad hair day. 30. The city of Barcelona got so fed up with tourists treating its historic streets like an extension of the beach that they passed a law in 2011 banning bikinis and shirtless strolls away from the seaside. Violators can be fined on the spot. Picture this: a sunburnt tourist in flip-flops, still dripping from the sea, trying to order gelato while a cop writes him up for public torso exposure. In Barcelona, shirts aren't just polite. They're mandatory armor against municipal justice. 31. Imagine a government so desperate for cash that it decides to tax hair powder. That's exactly what Great Britain did in 1795 to help fund its war against France. The powdered wigs worn by the aristocracy required a huge amount of scented powder, making them a perfect target for the taxman. Suddenly, having that fashionable, ghostly white coiffure came with an annual fee. The result? The tax almost single-handedly destroyed the trend, as men switched to unpowdered natural hairstyles to avoid paying. It was the ultimate style killer, a fiscal policy that ended a fashion era. 32. In 13th century France, striped clothing was considered so scandalous it was reserved for society's outcasts, executioners, prostitutes, and clowns. The stripes symbolized chaos, disorder, and moral failure. Wearing them as a regular person could get you excommunicated. That trendy striped top you wore to brunch last Sunday. In medieval Europe, it would have screamed, "I hang people for a living." 33. In 2012, the City Council of Shreveport, Louisiana, decided it had seen one too many people shopping for milk in their fuzzy pajama pants. They passed an ordinance making it illegal to wear pajama bottoms in public. The law specifically targeted pants that were obviously designed for sleeping. Forget potholes or urban planning. The city declared war on cozy flannel. In Shreveport, you can rob a bank in jeans, but God help you if you grab Pop-Tarts in fleece. Comfort is criminal. 34. In Victorian England, grieving was a fashion statement with a terrifyingly strict rulebook. The period of mourning was dictated by law and custom, and your outfit broadcast your exact level of sorrow. For a widow, the process could last 2.5 years, starting with full mourning, dull black fabrics with no shine, like crepe, and slowly transitioning to second mourning, where she could introduce fabrics like silk and a little bit of gray or lavender. It was a system so rigid, so complex, that it created an entire industry just to keep people from making a social faux pas while grieving. 35. Long before hipsters and lumberjacks made beards cool, the Puritans of 17th century Massachusetts declared war on them. In their view, long hair and beards were symbols of vanity, worldliness, and a potential slide into savagery. While not a statewide ban, many communities enacted their own strict codes, sometimes fining men for excessive facial hair. They looked at a well-groomed beard not as a mark of style, but as a fast track to damnation. One can only imagine what they would have thought of a modern barbershop with its beard oils and artisanal waxes. 36. In the early 1900s, going to the theater was a battle. Not the one on screen, but the one against the hat of the person sitting in front of you. Women's hats were enormous, elaborate creations, often adorned with feathers, ribbons, and sometimes entire fake birds. They were a public menace, completely blocking the view. In response, cities across America began passing hat ordinances, making it illegal to wear large hats in theaters and cinemas. It was one of the first great victories for cinematic visibility, a law that said, "Your hat is not the main character." 37. For centuries, men got deep, glorious pockets. Women got stitched lies. Their clothes either had fake slits or required hidden, tied-on pouches under layers of fabric. Why? Because real pockets meant independence, the power to carry money, keys, or secrets. Denying them was fashion's most passive-aggressive power move. Forget glass ceilings. Women had to fight for fabric cavities. 38. At the court of King Louis XIV, fashion wasn't just important. It was a blood sport, and the king was the ultimate referee. He instituted thousands of micro-rules to keep everyone in their place. One of the most absurd was about buttons. While courtiers could adorn their jacket sleeves with as many expensive buttons as they liked, only the king was permitted to have functional buttonholes to go with them. It was a tiny, brilliant detail that constantly reminded everyone who was in charge. It screamed, "I'm the king, and my sleeves are fully functional, you peasants." 39. In 15th century England, the government had to step in to silence a particularly annoying fashion trend. Young, fashionable men known as dandies had taken to attaching little bells to their shoes, knees, or belts, announcing their presence with a constant, irritating jingle. The Parliament of 1463 got so fed up that they passed a law banning these jangling accessories for anyone below the rank of nobleman. It was an official ban on being that guy, a legislative attempt to mute the most obnoxious people in the room. 40. In Rwanda, a government crackdown on indecent clothing led to women being arrested for wearing miniskirts. The campaign was justified as preserving cultural values, but sparked national outrage. Photos of women being forcibly detained for showing knees went viral, prompting backlash. It was a case where law enforcement became literal fashion police, measuring morality one hemline at a time. Turns out, in some places, showing skin is still treated like showing intent to revolt. 41. During the Protestant Reformation in 16th century Geneva, the moral reformer John Calvin turned the city into a religious republic with incredibly strict rules. Fashion was a primary target. He banned lace, jewelry, and any clothing that was deemed too ostentatious. Colors were heavily restricted, with bright hues being a sign of vanity. It was a citywide dress code enforced by the church, where the ultimate fashion sin wasn't a clashing pattern, but simply enjoying your outfit too much. Geneva became the beige capital of the world. 42. In the city of Tempe, Arizona, a law from the pioneer days made it illegal for women to wear pants. Like the similar rule in Paris, it was a holdover from a bygone era of gendered dress codes. The funny part is that this law remained on the books, completely forgotten, until a group of female city employees rediscovered it in the 1970s. They playfully threatened a pantsuit uprising until the council repealed the dusty statute. It wasn't a protest. It was a tailored polyester revolution. 43. In the early 20th century, the United States was gripped by a moral panic over the hobble skirt. This fashion trend involved a long, narrow skirt that was so tight at the ankles it forced women to take tiny mincing steps, effectively hobbling them. While it was never outright banned, public transit companies in cities like New York and Los Angeles had to modify their streetcars, adding extra steps because women literally couldn't lift their legs high enough to board. It was a fashion so restrictive, it forced infrastructure to change around it. 44. Under the Khmer Rouge regime in Cambodia, from 1975 to 1979, all signs of individuality and intellectualism were brutally purged. This extended to clothing. The entire population was forced to wear the same uniform, a simple black pajama-like outfit. Any deviation, any color, any Western clothing like a t-shirt was seen as a sign of bourgeois corruption and could be a death sentence. It's the most extreme example of fashion as a tool of control, where the goal wasn't just conformity but the complete eradication of personal identity. 45. In 2011, the French government passed a law making it illegal to cover one's face in public, which was widely seen as a ban on the full-face Islamic veil, the niqab. Proponents called it a matter of security and a defense of secular values. Critics called it an infringement on religious freedom. Whatever your stance, it's a fascinating and controversial modern example of the state legislating a single, specific piece of clothing, turning a personal and religious choice into a matter of national debate and criminal offense. 46. In ancient Sparta, clothing was a tool for brutal social engineering. Young Spartan men in military training were intentionally given only one cloak to last the entire year. They had to endure freezing winters and hot summers in the same garment, a method designed to harden them and make them tough. It was a state-mandated uniform of deliberate suffering. While the Athenians were debating philosophy, the Spartans were legislating frostbite as a character-building exercise. 47. If you happen to be a beekeeper in Louisiana, there's a strange fashion law just for you. A state statute says you cannot wear a fake beard while tending to your bees. It's one of those laws so bafflingly specific that it had to be inspired by a real incident. You have to wonder what went down. Did a rival beekeeper in a disguise try to steal some prize-winning honey? Did the bees get confused and agitated by the fake facial hair? We may never know the full story behind the great bearded beekeeper caper. 48. In Italy, if you visit the town of Eboli, make sure your smooching is discreet. A local ordinance makes it illegal to kiss inside a moving vehicle. But the law gets even better with its sartorial specificity. In the nearby island of Capri, the mayor once banned noisy, wooden clogs for the sake of public peace, effectively making a particular type of shoe illegal. It paints a picture of Italy as a place deeply concerned with both passionate romance and quiet footwear. 49. Let's journey to Heian-era Japan, where fashion wasn't just a statement, it was a high-stakes intellectual game. Noble women at the imperial court wore the famous junihido, or 12-layer robe. But the real law wasn't the robe itself, it was the color combinations. An incredibly complex system dictated the precise shades of all 12 layers based on the season, the occasion, and even the plants blooming outside. Getting it wrong wasn't a crime. It was far worse. It was a sign of poor taste and a lack of refinement, which could lead to total social ruin. It was a world where a fashion faux pas was a catastrophic failure of your character. All right, we've gone through 49 points and there's just one left. But before we get to our final number, it's time for the final verdict. In our opinion, the award for the single most unbelievable rule on this list goes to the law in Torrey, Michigan, against wearing mismatched socks to bed. It represents the absolute pinnacle of legislative absurdity. A government that has peered into every corner of public life and decided the final frontier of control is your laundry hamper. Do you agree with our verdict? Or did another law deserve this dubious honor? Let us know your pick in the comments. And now, for our final number. 50. In the United Kingdom, one man spent over a decade challenging the very foundation of all clothing laws. Stephen Goff, known as the Naked Rambler, believes it's his fundamental human right to be naked in public. For years, he walked the entire length of Great Britain completely nude, leading to a relentless cycle of arrests, court appearances, and prison sentences. His case forced the legal system to confront a simple, profound question. Is the requirement to wear clothes a matter of public decency or an infringement on personal liberty? He is a living, breathing, and frequently arrested embodiment of the ultimate fashion rebellion. So there you have it. Proof that for centuries, the most dangerous thing in your closet wasn't a monster, but a government with way too much time on its hands. But forget all these historical laws. Let's settle the one fashion crime that matters today. Socks with sandals. Is it a harmless comfort choice or should it be genuinely illegal? There is a right and a wrong answer. The comment section is now the courtroom. Go. And if you enjoy questioning authority, especially the fashion police, you know what to do. Subscribe.